Hello and welcome to another episode of Heart Centered Conversations, the podcast with me, Jane McDowell, and my wonderful guests, where we talk about books, how they've inspired us and shifted our perception and helped us to do good things in the world. And today I am delighted to welcome Harriet Compton. Harriet, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name's Harriet Compton. I live in Bristol, and I'm a financial advisor as a job. So I help people make great decisions with their money. I'm originally from Wiltshire in the countryside, and now live in amazing Bristol, which I absolutely love. So yeah, it's great. Thank you for having me as a guest, Jane.
You are very welcome because we had such a fun one-to-one when after we initially met. I just thought you have to come on the podcast
Yeah.
because you're a great lover of books too. And so tell us, which book are you exploring with us today?
Absolutely love reading. This is the book I'm going to read today. So I've got it with me. 4,000 Weeks. It's by Oliver Burkeman, and it's called Time Management for Mortals.
Mm.
It was actually a recommendation from one of my really close friends, Hazel. It's a kind of a brand new book for me. Normally I stick to kind of fiction and, more like reading for pleasure, but this was the first one that was more of a, I don't know, it's a self-help book written by someone who hates self-help books, isn't it? It was brand new to me, but it's absolutely changed the way I think about things. So I thought it'd be a good one to bring along today.
Oh, that's awesome. So I too have read the book, and so tell me what themes of the book really stuck with you and made you think differently.
Um, so I guess it all starts with like the title of the book. So it's called 4,000 Weeks, which is the average time frame that one human has on like this planet. So it essentially averages out at about 80 years old. Um, and when most people are asked, like, oh, how long do you think we have on this earth? Most people overestimate that by tenfold. They think it's more
Yeah.
like 400,000 weeks.
Yeah.
So 40,000, and in the book, what do they call it? An insultingly short period of time, which I really love. I just think it's really fascinating of going like, you've been given this. You might none of it's guaranteed, but if you do have this full 4,000 weeks, what do you want to do with it? And how are you using it at the moment? And is that exactly what aligns to what you actually want? Or is it kind of where you've just found yourself? And it's really, really interesting. And I think that I personally have made some like big life decisions after reading this book.
Oh,
And
wow. Tell me more, Harriet.
so, I mean, for example, like I moved from London to Bristol last year, based off reading this book because I was really fed up with like my day-to-day life of commuting all the time, being around miserable people, commuting on busy tubes and things like that, and wanting to spend more time in the countryside, more time with my family. And I was going, hang on, wait, it's under my control. I can change that. I'm
Yeah.
just in this position because I've ended up here, but that doesn't mean that I have to stay here. And so I just went to my partner and said, I'm moving, we're moving. I can't do this anymore. Luckily she was on board as well. But it was one of those things where you go, do you know what? Yeah, there's a lot to sort out. We have to, settle into a new place. We have to work out work and how that fits in. But what's your priority? What matters? And there's no point dilly-dallying and waiting for it to change for you. It's about embracing those decisions and going forward. So yeah, I personally found it really insightful and life-changing already. So yeah,
Wow, that is amazing that you made such, because that's a huge decision to leave your job and the city you're living in, your whole lifestyle, basically. And what a brave and wonderful thing to do, because like you say, if your daily life is not making your heart sing, then hang on a minute, what is going on? And we all have the power to change it in some way or another. Obviously, there's a sort of spectrum, there's a scale of how easy or challenging that might be for people,
yeah,
but there's always something that we can change in our situation. And
yeah,
yeah, I really, the thing I really that really struck me about the book is the question that he asked about how we view time,
mm,
because he takes us back to a time before clocks were a thing, so each, if you're just thinking about rural UK, for example, each village had its own version of what the time was, and people were much more in touch with their circadian rhythms and living, alongside the natural world. Whereas I think he says that he's come from a background of being a productivity manager and striving for years and years and years to find the magic formula to work out your productivity. And he's come to the conclusion, this is not really bringing me joy. I think he uses the words joyless urgency in one point in the book.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that really rings true, doesn't it? When I think back at how many jobs I had where I'd be rushing around to do whatever needed to be done with a real sense of joyless urgency.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that's it. It talks about kind of our instinctive and human nature and how our lives today have kind of formed around work and being, using your productivity at the weekend so that you're even better at work, and it's kind of formed into this way of life when, as you say, when you look backwards, and although that time where we didn't have clocks and it was more circadian rhythms, that feels like a very, very long time ago. In the whole grand scheme of things, in terms of us as humans, that's not really that long. And
really,
we've got
yeah,
to, I think, recognize that. And also I think it's about like not beating yourself up about not being able to do everything as well.
yeah,
Like I was finding, like, even just like all of my friends seem to be running marathons or doing triathlons every weekend, or loads of charity work, like all of these things where I go, oh, I want to do, I should be doing this. Why aren't I doing this? I just need to be more efficient and more productive in the things I do, and then I can fit more in. And then, but I think he makes a point of the more you achieve, the more you'll want to achieve, and the more you'll fit in. You'll never get everything done. So you've got to really prioritize in the things that you do want to get done. And he quotes like Warren Buffett in part of it, who's an investment geek. So he's from my world, really. Let's say investment geek, he's like the most successful fund manager in the world. But he says about like getting someone to write down all of their priorities, so their top 20 priorities, what are the things you really want to achieve, and then put them in the order, and then circle the top 5 and cross out all of the rest, and so you have to focus where you want to be. You cannot achieve all of those things, and actually you've got to underachieve to be able to achieve those top ones. And maybe that's quite a savage way of looking at it, but I think you go, do you know what, I don't want to run a marathon. I actually would prefer to spend more time, like, I don't know, doing things I really love, like knitting and spending time on the sofa and just
yeah,
spending, like, not doing anything.
yeah,
And to do that, you have to learn to say no, which is not an easy thing for a lot of people just to do. And I'm definitely a yes person. I say yes to everything without really thinking about, what I want to do with my time at that moment. So it's
yeah,
just kind of having a bit of a reset, I think, in how you kind of live your life.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just made me think about how many people might be getting together at the weekend, for example, to do whatever it is, and how many of those people are really thinking, "Oh, I wish I had the time to do X, Y, and Z."
Yeah, 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 yeah. And
Yeah,
we're in a world of comparisons, aren't we, as well? So, in especially, I know everyone blames social media a lot for different things, but you see all these people doing all of these different experiences. And I think it's about going, do you know what? I can't do all of those things. Like, I can't travel to all of those places. I can't, fill all of my time doing all of these things, because it's just an infinite number of possibilities and an infinite number of experiences. But you've got to, I don't know, it's about accepting, do you know what, this is my path. There's always going to be compromises along that way as well, and there is a choice along the way. So I think one of the ones I really liked was about choosing a life partner and saying, like, you can't have someone who is equally like as exciting and like really like, act on impulse and really spontaneous. You can't have that as well as someone who is really reliable and someone who's always going to turn up and, be really, really thoughtful. You can't have both of those things, and that you have
mm,
to choose, and you can't expect someone to be both. And so I just think I think with all of that, like, and all of our life choices, there is always compromise, isn't there? When you think about, okay, where do I want to live? I want to live in the countryside, but I've got to accept that I might not be able to get, have amazing food on my doorstep, or I live in the middle of Bristol like I do at the moment, and I've got to compromise in terms of I don't have green space around me, I don't have a garden, but I can walk into town and have, you know, a huge number of experiences there, and music and theatre and
Yeah.
like that. But you can't have both, and that's okay.
Yeah. And plus, if you're living in Bristol, you've only got to travel 15 minutes and you're in beautiful countryside anyway. So
Yeah,
like it's a win-win, isn't it, really?
yeah, it's a great place to live, to be fair.
Yeah. So tell me, how did the book impact? Obviously, you left London and you found some work in Bristol, but has it changed the way that you approach your work or your clients or
Yeah,
philosophy that you bring to them?
yeah, absolutely. So I think when people think about financial advice, they think, you know, all I talk about is tax and like, I don't know, pensions and like really technical or like boring stuff. But actually, the best way of financial planning for somebody is to really understand what they want. And sometimes it might be stuff that might be a question they've never really asked themselves or been asked outright, of going, well, what do you actually want? People think about, you know, if I talk about retirement planning, you go like, well, what do you do in retirement? What do you do the day after you retire? And people go, what? I haven't even thought about it. Or like, what do you do with your time? How do you fill it? If you didn't have to work right now, how do you use that time? And so it's getting people to think about that. And I do think that this book feeds into that, and going, and yeah, I don't know, it's really fascinating, really, when everyone's relationship with money is very different and very interesting. And some people are very, very money driven. They want to work really hard and like, I don't know, put all their time into that, but they don't give themselves the time for the things they really love. And some people have got the balance a little bit different, and actually they kind of work really, they work less, but prioritize doing the things that they really love. Now, neither one of those is right or wrong. I'm not saying
Mm.
that. But it's just, this book really feeds into that, because you can just open up those conversations really about like why they're doing what they're doing, what this money actually means, and what the freedom of this money lets them do, and just getting them to think about money in a different way rather than just like tax and boring technical stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually like flagged a section. Do you mind if is that okay if I read a little
Yeah,
section?
go ahead. I love
Okay.
that.
This is one that's like really stuck with me, and I think it's because it's so visual as well. So you'll probably remember it from the book. But yeah, it's in the chapter called You Are Here. But it says, this is also the kernel of truth in the cliche that people in less economically successful countries are better at enjoying life, which is another way of saying that they're less fixated on instrumentalizing it for future profit, and are thus more able to participate in the pleasures of the present. Mexico, for example, has often outranked the United States in global indices of happiness. Hence the old parable about a vacationing New York businessman who gets talking to a Mexican fisherman, who
Yeah.
tells him that he works for only a few hours per day and spends most of his time drinking wine in the sun and playing music with his friends. Appalled at the fisherman's approach to time management, the businessman offers him an unsolicited piece of advice. If the fisherman worked harder, he explained, he could invest all the profits in a bigger fleet of boats, pay others to do the fishing, make millions, and then retire early. And what would I do then? The fisherman asks. Ah, well then, the businessman replies, you could spend your days drinking wine in the sun and playing music with your friends.
I love that story. It really made me chuckle. Um, and it goes back to that notion, doesn't it, of be happy now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
we don't, like we said at the beginning, we don't know. We all have roughly 4,000 weeks. Some of us have far less. We don't know what's around the corner. So be happy now.
yeah, yeah.
Just take any opportunity to just revel in the joy of being alive. And I think, when people are so tunnel vision and focused on, tankety tank, I've got to reach this level of income or wealth or status or whatever it is, then they're kind of like losing like the great view that they're passing on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's it. We get sucked into being, oh, I'm doing this, and then this is a stepping stone to the next bit, and then we'll do this. And I remember so when I moved to Bristol, obviously it was really, really exciting to like move to a different city. And as soon as you get, like, we're renting where we are. And as soon as I got there, people going, so what are you going to do next? Do you think you'll buy in Bristol? Do you think you'll do this? Do you think you'll do... I'm like, hang on, I've only just blooming got here. Like,
Yeah,
I just want to enjoy where I am. I don't want to think about the next step quite yet. And that's what my natural mind goes towards. But I'm just trying to reel that in and go, just be here, just enjoy it. You don't know what's going to happen. Just like, it's all right to have some kind of time frame in mind, but it doesn't all need to be planned ahead. And not everything you do now has to be for the future. You've got to, as you say, like live now. This is time. We are time
yeah,
where
yeah.
we are. And you've got to just really try and embrace that. So yeah, definitely.
I think also there's that notion of tapping into your future self, and what do you want for your future self,
Yeah.
so that you can start to do those things now, so that you can become that version of you that you want to be, whether that's, you're going on a fitness journey and you want to get fit in order just to be mobile and enjoy life, or because you want to, achieve some triathlon or marathon or whatever it is. Yeah, but it's figuring out the why you're doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
and enjoying the journey there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's that choosing, that's how you want to spend your time, and going, because I've recently started working with a PT who's absolutely lovely. And the reason I'm doing it is because I have the back of a 95-year-old essentially. So I was like, look, I want to be strong. I want to have a good back so that I can enjoy life now and also in the future. And that, so it's not just about, totally like ignoring the future, is it? But it's about, do you know what? I'm going to choose to spend my time, like, 2 or 3 hours a week in the gym, getting myself fitter to improve my health. And like,
Yeah,
I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm not doing it because I feel like I should be doing it, or because all my other friends are in the gym, or they're all working towards marathons. I'm doing it for myself, but it's a bit of a, I don't know, that for me, that's even just a bit of a mind shift for going, oh, I've got to exercise because everyone else is exercising and I feel like that's something I should be doing. But
yeah,
I don't know, even just going, I'm doing it for myself and I'm choosing to do it.
yeah,
And it just makes the whole process less painful as well if you're,
yeah. It's a very different motivation, isn't it? Because I think when we get stuck in that comparison and that competition kind of mindset, it makes everything a much more of a chore, much more of a, "Oh, got to get
yeah,
through this," and a push energy, isn't it? But when you're doing something for yourself, that's a whole different thing. There's a whole different set of chatter going on in my head for doing things for me, rather than doing things because I feel I've got to keep up, or be seen as whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
Definitely. There are a couple of other like really good points which I loved. So one of them was um about like kind of embracing the mundane and things like, unloading the dishwasher. Or yesterday I was walking home from work in the rain and I was like, oh, so annoying that it's raining. And then, but it's actually going, do you know what? Embrace those experiences. And one of the things like he talks about in the book is going like, he talks about a friend who's passed away at the age of like 35, 40 or something, and going, what would he give to be walking home in the rain right now? What would he give to be unloading the dishwasher or stacking, or, putting the washing out or whatever? Like we are it's such a tiny, small chance that we're even on this earth. And, with those 4,000 weeks, we've got no idea when that's going to end. So just try and embrace that mundane, and just look for a little bit of fun in it, or a little bit of joy, or just try and,
yeah, exactly.
it's not always easy, but it's
Yeah,
sometimes when I feel myself going into that, oh gosh, this is annoying, or like stuck in traffic is another one, I go, what would so and so do to be stuck in traffic, so I
yeah,
think that really shifts something in me.
definitely. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he used these words which really describe what I call glimmers. And he said, "Be easily pleased."
Yeah,
So find the pleasure in the small things, because
yeah,
especially in this day and age in the society we live in, the bar's always set so high for, what society and other people might expect you to have or do or be in your whatever your chosen profession or um, path in life. And actually, we spend so much time looking at where we want to get, that we're not looking at where we've come from, and we're not celebrating our achievements, because we're still stuck in that, well, I'm not good enough
Yeah.
because I'm not there yet. So so I can't be pleased with anything because I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And you may never get there, because you know what? Somewhere along the way, you might think, oh, actually, I'd like to do that instead. So, everything has to be flexible. So just
Yeah.
enjoy the journey. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. That's it. I've got clients, for example, who are like, at they've worked their way up in their careers and they're quite like successful. They might be directors of a big company, and they've like one of them turned to me the other day and went, "What? I've been working for this for like 25 years and now I'm here. I just have to work really hard and it's rubbish." And she's like, "I've just been sold this lie of this like working towards this big thing, and all I want to do is leave and I hate it." And she's like, "It's just, you know, that obviously like we're in this society, like a company wants you to be able to want to, progress and be the best and work really hard because it's in their interests." And
Yeah,
then
it's in their interest.
yeah, and you've got to really think like, well, who's going to benefit from me doing this?
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
with you work hard. I think it's important to take like pride in what you do and do it, take it seriously. But you've got to really think about, why you're doing, what does it actually let you do? And, going back to like the fisherman thing, if you're working from, 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. every evening, when do you get to, drink wine with your friends and make music with your friends? You've got
yeah,
to really think why you're
exactly.
doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to somebody a few months ago, and she was telling me she was quite young. I think she was like in her late 20s, and she was saying that she was on a salary of over 100K, which I thought was fantastic for someone of that age. And she said, the thing is, I work all the time, and I've got loads of money. I never get to spend it. And
Mhm.
weekend comes along, I'm absolutely shattered, and my friends are going off to clubs, and I'm just like, nah. And
Yeah,
I thought, wow, how sad, because when I was that age, I was living the high life. I mean, I certainly wasn't on a salary like that, but God, did I enjoy my life. I was
yeah,
out socializing and going to see bands and, all the things that I love to do.
yeah,
And I just I felt really sorry for her, because I thought, well, if you've got the ability to make that amount of money and you're not using it for anything,
yeah,
then
yeah.
yeah, it's not about earn a load of money and just spend it and get rid of it, because that's not healthy either. But there has to be a
No,
balance, right? And
yeah,
and so if you've got the skills and the knowledge and the experience that can garner you that kind of salary, then just do something else,
yeah, yeah, totally.
because pretty sure you can.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think
Yeah,
it just sometimes, like kind of started on, like you've just find yourself in a position, and I just think sometimes it's important to just take that step back. But when people are that busy, and I've got friends who work all hours of the day, but when they're that busy they don't have the time to step back. That's what's really difficult to watch sometimes when you're like looking at other people like stuck,
yeah.
because it's I don't know, people can feel very trapped. But yeah, I've got a friend who works all hours a day. I bought her this book, but I was like, she's never gonna have time to read it. That's the only issue. But I do,
Audible, people, Audible. Listen
yeah.
to it on Audible.
Yeah, do you
You
know
can
what? I
speed it up
actually,
if you need.
yeah. I actually did listen to some of it on Audible as well because I love listening to books as well.
Yeah,
And it's a really good one for that because it's kind of a bit of a podcast style. Um,
yeah.
it was really good to listen to, so I would really
Yeah, he's very
recommend
easy to listen to as well,
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
I
it's
don't know
and
about
like
you, but sometimes with Audible, I have to listen to a sample first, because I've made that mistake before. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
getting really excited, downloading a book and then listening to it. Oh my God, oh, this is
yeah,
awful.
yeah. The accent's too much or whatever.
I
Yeah.
cannot spend 8 hours with this noise. No.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And
Excellent.
one of the things that struck me also in the book was he talks about the fact that we think in terms of we have time to do this or we don't have time to do that, or and looking at it from a different perspective, and thinking about, well, thinking of ourselves as time, so we are time.
Yeah, yeah,
And that gave me a real shift of perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And we use that language all the time, don't we? And say, oh, when I've got the time to do it, I'll do this. And when, you know, I haven't had time to do that. Like you are time, we are
Yeah,
time. You'll
yeah,
get this given moment. You can never guarantee that's going to happen.
yeah,
And yeah, and it goes back to like the productivity stuff and him being this massive productivity geek of trying to fit as much into his day as possible. And going, the more you try and control it, the more it's just going to get away from you, and you're going to feel like you can never like grab it. But yeah, we are time. We are. They talk about this us being a river, and we are the river, and it's flowing, and you know you don't know where we're going to end up. You don't know where it's going to like suddenly drop you off into the sea. It could be now. It could be in a week. It could be in 50 years' time. But you can't climb out of that riverbank because you are the time. You are the river.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So now that you've got more time, that you are more time for yourself. Just trying to embrace this concept. So obviously you've got your job in Bristol, and you said you're really enjoying life in Bristol. So what else are you doing now that you weren't able to do when you were in London?
I think some of the stuff we're doing is nothing, which is really nice. In London, my aim every week was to have one day in where I wasn't out and about, and it didn't really happen very often. Um, and now I feel like we're much better at prioritizing just doing nothing, and having those evenings in. But I think before, where I would feel guilty, I would feel like, oh, I should be seeing someone, I should be going out, I should be making the most of it, and you know, seeing something or doing something. By embracing doing nothing, it means that I'm enjoying other things more, and the stuff that you are doing, I've got more energy for, I'm more excited about. The more, you know, when I do see people, it's slightly less frequently, but it's more special. And so, and that's okay. Like I don't have to see all my friends every week, and you know, you can see them once a month and have just as good time and feel like you're really going to enjoy it. Um, so yeah, I think just trying to put the brakes on, and like the priorities. But yeah, I guess when we are doing things, I like love like long walks in the countryside. And as you say, in Bristol, we're so like lucky with what we're surrounded by here. So you can easily be in like proper countryside like really quite quickly. So doing that at the weekends, just doing like there's loads of like cool breweries, so we do like a little brewery pub crawl sometimes and go to like some of the micro sites, but often it's not something that's planned. It's like, oh, should we just go and do this? I do think that's easier to do being somewhere like Bristol, where you can walk places as well. In London, you don't get that kind of spontaneity because everything takes an hour to get to, and everyone's always so busy you can't meet up with people. So I guess yeah, it's just getting some more spontaneity in my life, and just yeah, just taking a step back really. So yeah,
Hmm.
no, it's great. It's great. Have you changed anything that you do, Jane, from reading the book at all?
Um, that's a good question. I think it's made me appreciate that I am time. This notion, have I got time to do this? I've got time to do that. Well, yeah, I have, because I can choose.
Mm,
And it's going back to, what do I want to focus on?
mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
So if I do find myself, and it doesn't happen very often, if I do find myself scrolling through social media,
mm,
I'm, I'm quite good at saying, hang on a minute, I can be doing something else instead of this, because this isn't making my heart sing. So, nah, and just putting it down. So yeah, and I've really enjoyed getting back to just lying on the sofa sometimes, doing nothing,
yeah,
and letting my mind just wander wherever it wants to go,
yeah,
without feeling I should be doing something. It goes back to this whole thing, we should ourselves a lot, don't we?
yeah, totally.
And there was another great book I read recently, just trying to remember which one it was. Anyway, the question it brought up was, who would you be if you were who you are instead of who you think you should be?
Oh wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite a good one to dwell on.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one,
Yeah.
yeah, when you are making decisions, maybe it's about having this alter ego of going like, what would what would that Harriet do? What would just, you know, Harriet who doesn't have any shoulds or, you know, like pulls in other directions, what would she choose? And just trying to be more like her, which is cool.
But even things as mundane as your partner says, "Hey, shall we watch such and such on the TV or whatever?" And just taking a moment to think, actually, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to fill my head with that stuff. So let's think about something else we can enjoy together. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned the social media stuff, which I think is really interesting. Like our phones are absolute voids of time. Like they're very good at trapping us in. And I think I used to just beat myself up about it and go like, you know, I'm really easy distracted. I'm such a procrastinator, da 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 da. But the book talks about how it's just like all those apps, everything on there is designed to interact with our human nature, to want to be distracted, look at shiny things, have a good refresh rate. Like it's not our fault. They're working towards like maximizing that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And keeping you on there as long as possible so they can make some money.
Yeah, definitely. And then but then I would kind of go to like I don't know, an extreme and go, right, I'm just going to delete all social media and not do any of that, and it just, you know, have a total detox, which I do think is helpful. My new way of dealing with it is I have like really set time limits on what I'm allowed. So I'm allowed like 5 minutes on Instagram a day. And like, but that's also enough to kind of, I don't know, you can see what's going on. I check in with my friends and I don't actually ever post, but I see what my friends are doing. You know, that's all I really care about on there.
Yeah.
It means that I'm okay with 5 minutes a day. That's fine. But I don't want to spend half an hour a day on it. Like what it's just that can easily like happen and ramp up. And I'm just like, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to choose to spend 5 minutes a day on it to see what's going on. And it's also good to see what's going on like in Bristol and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend any more time on it. That's okay. So that's worked really well for me. In the book, he suggested putting your phone in grayscale as well, because then you're way less interested in it. So that I haven't tried that one actually, but that could be another one if this 5 minutes thing stops working after time.
Yeah. I'm quite a fan of just leaving my phone somewhere, going off and doing stuff without it.
Yeah.
But it can sometimes backfire. Like, oh, what time is it? I've got no idea.
Oh dear, funny. Excellent. But yeah,
Well,
yeah, it's a brilliant book. I definitely think it's one that I'm going to keep on my bookshelf and one
yeah,
that I would go back to and like periodically, because I just think it's so full of wisdom. And
yeah,
like the more you read it, the more you will take out of it. So yeah, I would seriously recommend it to like anyone. It's just brilliant.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for Harriet, for coming on here and talking about 4,000 Weeks. As you say, it's a really good read, and I wish you all the best. I will see you soon. And thanks everyone for tuning in, watching, listening. Remember to like and subscribe and share with your friends. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care.
Bye.